Hi, folks. Welcome to the Rochester Finger Lakes virtual FAM tour. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes as we allow for more attendees to join. Thanks for your patience. Just one more minute while we wait for more attendees to join. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I think we'll get started. Welcome, folks, to the Rochester Finger Lakes virtual FAM tour. My name is Laura Burning. I work here at the New York State Governor's Office of Motion Picture and Television Development, and also I work with our terrific regional film offices and great agency partners across the state. We are so pleased to have the Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission and its Executive Director, Nora Brown, here today to talk about the great production resources and diverse locations in Rochester and the surrounding region. But before we begin the tour with Nora, I want to mention a few things about the Zoom today. We want you to know that at the end of Nora's presentation, she'll be taking questions through the Q&A box located on the bottom center of the Zoom screen. Please do not submit questions to the chat box. There are also all kinds of important links in the chat box. So if you'd like to reach out to any of us after the event today, our office links and emails are there. But before we get to the main event, I want to introduce Yoni Boxer, our Executive Director here at the Film Office, who is going to kick things off. So Yoni, take it away.
Thank you so much, Laura, for all your work organizing this event and supporting production activities throughout the state, as well as Lena and Mason and other team members who are working behind the scenes to both support the logistics of this and also recruit almost 100 folks to come and listen and hear about the great assets that Rochester has. Rochester is a world-class filming destination with a wide variety of unique filming locations, from the Genesee Brewery to the Genesee River, Dinosaur Barbecue, and the Strong Museum of Play, where I'm sure you can find lots of dinosaurs. Rochester is full of great assets, great talents. As Laura mentioned, there's an abundance of crew and talent already living in the region. There's a wonderful arts scene, great universities from the Rochester Institute of Technology, which has a virtual production stage at the Magic Center, to the University of Rochester and the Eastman School of Music that I'm sure can help you with your score. No matter what you need, the city of Rochester and the Finger Lakes can have it, and Nora and Tim can get it done. Some historical highlights are the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which took over Main Street in downtown Rochester and turned it into New York City. So whether New York City is in your story or any city throughout the world, Rochester can make it happen. As you may know, the Governor Hochul's leadership expanded and enhanced the Film Tax Incentive Program this spring. We're pleased that the program was extended through 2034, and the annual allocation was increased from $420 million to $700 million. The base credit rate for all projects due in production or post-production only was returned from 25% back to 30%, with new categories for above the line. Further, The upstate bump, which was limited previously just to labor, has now been expanded to all qualified costs for projects which have more than 50% of their shoot days in those counties. If you have any questions about the tax credit, feel free to contact our office directly or the tax incentive team. Any questions about Rochester, of course, Laura and I and our team are here, but Nora and Tim are really the experts. Without further ado, let me turn it over to Nora.
Yep, okay. So I thought it was going to be. So greetings, everybody. Welcome to Rochester. It's a pleasure to have you here and to show you our region. I do want to thank Yoni and everybody at the State Film Office for arranging this for us. We're coming today to you from Space Mountain House Media was nice enough to let us use this space and their extra bandwidth. We worry a little bit about bandwidth at our office, but we are in a former department store that has been repurposed into housing, apartments, and restaurants. So let's get started. Let me show you Rochester. You should know also that this is not our first virtual fam tour, that we have been doing virtual fam tours individually for our filmmakers for about 2 years now, but we're really excited to have everybody here with us. Our film office was founded in 1990, the oldest film office in New York State outside of New York City, let's say the first. Staffed by professionals, obviously. We are an independent 501c3, and because we're members of AFCI, our services are free of charge. Our funding comes from Monroe County, but our region consists of a lot of other counties, plus the, towns and villages in each one of those counties. So we have a very diverse region with diverse locations. Just a quick overview of our region. You can see on the star where we're located. Our northern border is Lake Ontario, which, by the way, doubles as the ocean for a lot of projects. And then, of course, we also cover some of the regions just south of our area because there's no film commission down there. As you can see, a very nice photo of George Eastman and Thomas Edison shooting 16mm film on the front lawn of George Eastman's house. So it's safe to say that we've been shooting film in Rochester for 100 years, as 16mm turns 100 years old this year. Our locations are metro, small town. We've got the historic villages, obviously agricultural, industrial, and we have lots of water. To give you kind of an overview of our infrastructure, we like to say that we're well suited here for any production. We've got extensive camera grip and electric rental houses, multiple qualified production facilities, experienced crew base, and a full complement of support services. This is just a slide with some of the films that have shot here, some of the productions that we've assisted with. Yoni mentioned Spider-Man. We also had Netflix Hyperdrive here, which was quite an experience, and we can talk a little bit more about that, I guess, a little bit later in our presentation. So this is Eastman Business Park. This is, as it was lit for Hyperdrive, the Netflix project Hyperdrive, which was taking over basically the east end of the complex and racing drift cars through obstacle courses. They had ramps and water hazards and water cannons. Eastman Business Park is 1,200 acres, and there's about 100 miles of road that runs through Eastman Business Park. Again, we've got some other location or some other industrial locations. Top left corner, you'll see the Retzelf salt mine, which is just south of here, maybe about a 35-minute drive outside of Rochester. And these are just some representations of some other industrial sites. This one we're most proud of, obviously Urban Metro. When someone asks about, our Main Street and can you ever shut down Main Street for projects? We did a scout here, and that's one of the questions that the location manager asked the city of Rochester. And ironically, just a few months later, Spider-Man got a hold of us and said, we'd like to shut down your main street for 10 days, for 10 blocks. And we accommodated that. We also handled all the angry phone calls from people who couldn't get their haircut and couldn't go get their ice cream. We were really excited to have Spider-Man here. It was basically the opening sequence of the whole film was shot here. This is just a few more of our urban locations. We have quite a few of the Flatiron buildings, but we have very diverse city locations, and you know, the city neighborhoods, let's call them the residential neighborhoods, really range from really opulent homes along East Avenue to some of the post-war neighborhoods, you know, with the houses closer together. And, you know, there's obviously some of the less fortunate areas that maybe need a little bit of work, but look beautiful in a film. Yeah, so do we have agricultural? I guess you could say that. I think what did we put? Signs, shot some of their crop circles here in our wheat fields. Obviously, we have vineyards for days and days and days. There's hundreds of wineries down in the region, and there's also some vineyards that they don't actually bottle their own wine. They just grow grapes for other wineries. Sorry about that. I am not running the show. So, you know, like I said, some of the vineyards down there just grow grapes for other wineries. And interestingly enough, we had Welch's likes to come here every couple of years to shoot their commercials. And even though we don't grow the kind of grapes that they use for Welch's grape jelly, they just ship those in. And they just use little wires to tie them to the vines because they like to do their commercials here also. Obviously farms, you know, we're upstate New York, so you're going to find farms of all kinds, whether they're growing corn or wheat or beans or, the farm markets here. We're a huge apple producing region, so there are cider mills and apple farms wherever you go. One of the interesting relationships that we have also is we work with the different cooperatives, because if you're closer to the lake, and these are things you never thought you would know, if you're closer to the lake, the crops are going to be harvested at different times than those areas that are, you know, 50 miles from the lake because of the temperature and stuff. So we work with each one of the cooperatives in the different regions, so we have an idea of when corn will be harvested, how often the wheat is coming in, and how far the knee-high by 4th of July for the corn, but also how the bean crop's doing, because a lot of filmmakers come here to capture our agriculture. Again, do we have water? Yes. Lake Ontario, we talked about, there's 8 or more Finger Lakes. There's 300 miles of shoreline, the Erie Canal and the Genesee River and High Falls. High Falls is the waterfall that's directly right in the middle of the city. You'll see it top center on the screen. You know, beaches, lighthouses, the little boathouses along the smaller Finger Lakes are there, and there's the towpath along the canal. Plus, again, the vineyards all around the Finger Lakes. So there are some unique locations. Our abandoned subway is a very popular location for some of the darker films that come here, but maybe not all just dark films. We work with the filmmakers in a lot of ways because the utilities also run through that subway. We have to help get clearance with the city to make that happen. Sometimes there's some environmental issues that need to be cleaned up because it is, you know, a subway, it's enclosed. If the environmental study comes in and says the air is bad, then we have to help the filmmakers get that cleared up. Some of the posts have had asbestos. We had to have that cleaned up. That it's a great location and it's easily accessible and easily permitted. The Genesee Country Village Museum is a 19th century fully restored historical village that is film friendly. And of course we have Letchworth State Park, which is the Grand Canyon of the East. and looks beautiful in the fall, but it really looks beautiful year round. There's 3 major waterfalls inside of Letchworth. Now let's talk about qualified production facilities. So on the right of the screen, Young Lion Studios was one of the first qualified production facilities upstate, and one of the first to be called the QPF when that went into effect, where you had to shoot at least part of your film on a qualified production facility. That's a beautiful space. And then the newest is Magic Spell Studios, which is a state-of-the-art facility that also has the Adobe mixing theater and theater to watch dailies, and comes with student filmmakers if you want to hire student crew members. We have 2 other qualified production facilities. Like most cities, the Convention Center is qualified, and the Kodak Center for the Performing Arts is also a qualified production facility. And you never probably would have believed that if you come this far out of the big city, that you would find this type of infrastructure for camera grip and electric rentals. And we are well suited for your needs here. The first, I guess, just in the order that they were open, is Gearhead, who just moved into a new facility. And you see photos there that represent their grip and their camera department. And then most recently, Expressway Cinema Rentals. This is their New York hub for Expressway Cinema Rentals. You may be familiar with Expressway from Philadelphia. And again, they are, they have all the state-of-the-art gear, whether you're looking for an Alexa or you're looking for any other digital camera and support, you can find that at Expressway Cinema Rentals. Just to continue a little bit more on infrastructure, because, the farther you get from a big city, you're not sure that the infrastructure is there. We just lost our lights. They're motion activated. So strong crew base, union crew base, independent crew, and film students for PAs. We also have a very large library of PAs, support services like ADR and audio, visual effects and animation, catering, expendables, and construction. We have really experienced location managers. We also, I don't want to forget the fact that we have a deep location database at our disposal, and we spend a lot of time curating galleries for filmmakers that call us. And we do, like I said, we do these virtual FAM tours. As far as permitting goes, we partner with the jurisdiction that you're shooting in, because it's not just Monroe County and Rochester. City of Rochester is a very seamless permitting process. It's a very affordable permit also. They have the same requirements as anybody as far as insurance and proof of New York State disability and workers' comp. We have the curated location gallery. We have thousands and thousands of pictures of our locations. If we don't have it, we will go out and get some reference photos for you. Hotels and accommodations are not a problem, because we work alongside our friends at Visit Rochester. So we can always reach out to different hotels and identify film-friendly hotels that have the amenities that you need. And then production guidance, because your production is not going to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So neither are we. You can always contact us, whether you're here already, or you're on your way here, or you are just thinking about coming here. We can really individualize attention to identify local resources. So obviously everybody has testimonials, and we're not going to leave ours out. Troy Combs was the line producer for Netflix. When they first contacted us, they had over 100 locations in mind. And by the time they narrowed it all down, it came to really Rochester or a city in Georgia. And thankfully they picked Rochester, because even though it was very loud and the neighbors were disappointed in the noise, they had a great experience here with the support of the city and our film office. And they were very happy when they drove away. I put Evan Kosbar in there because Evan was just brand new to the film industry when he first came here, feature-length narrative films. And the 3 films that he did shoot here all had different needs. They were different seasons. They were completely different projects. And so he was very grateful for all the help that we could give him. And then Barry is our most recent testimonial. That was just about 2 weeks ago. We had, Fanatics, Netflix commercial with Damar Hamlin was here filming, and Barry did need us 24/7. So it was nice to know that he could get us whenever he needed us. So just to summarize, we're a true partner with productions that work in our area. We are available 24/7 to schedule virtual production meetings. We will do a FAM tour in person if you want to come up. We would love to have you come up. We'll accompany you on scouts, help you organize, help you get your permits cleared. I'm having a little trouble seeing mine. Okay, so a lot of times you're going to want to meet with public officials, especially if you're going to shut down Main Street for 10 days. So it's the mayor and the fire department and the police department. We will be with you on those. We'd love to see you up in upstate New York and show you what Rochester is all about. And now we'll take your questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nora. That was really awesome. I love seeing all those locations. Why don't we get to some Q&A? I just want to remind our attendees to please submit your questions to the Q&A box on the bottom center of your Zoom screen. Why don't we start off with the drone question? Is drone filming allowed in the city of Rochester? And also, I just add to that, on county properties throughout the region?
Sure. So that's a good question. Drone filming is allowed anywhere that it is allowed legally, according to the FAA. The only thing that the city requires truly is, they want to be looped in on when it's happening, which you would do anyway. They would like to see your insurance certificate, which would happen anyway. It's really just because there's so many casual operators that end up over their head, and they will send their drone up in the air and the wind will catch it and it ends up on top of the Kodak building. And that happens more often than you would think. So the city just likes to know for law enforcement that it is permitted, that they're aware of what's going on. But yes, it is allowed. It's allowed in county parks. The farther you get from the city and from, like the bigger municipalities, it's really no holds barred in a lot of cases. We will work with you with the towns, and if it's allowed by the FAA, it's allowed here.
Great. Our next question, speaking of flight, Nora, is there a film-friendly airport in Rochester, or are there other film-friendly airports in the municipalities in the region?
Sure. So our Greater Rochester International Airport is film-friendly. And that's just a case of working with the people that manage the airport. There's almost always a time when you can film at the airport. They're very eager to help us. They understand the economic impact of production spending in the area. Also, just to put it out there is an air museum in Geneseo that has World War I, World War II planes, I guess. It's a great museum. They hold an event every year with fly-ins and stuff, but they do have planes down there, so there is an air museum also.
Great. Let's turn to crew base. Nora, how many productions can the Union crew base in Rochester support at one time?
Well, that's a good question. That's more of a question for John Scardino, the union rep for this region. We're not a referral service. We don't recommend crew. We don't make direct recommendations of crew. So if a production is coming in and they are obviously, whether they're union or not, we give that contact information to them to work with John. We have had as many as 2 going on at the same time. That is a little bit of a drain because our crew comes from Buffalo and Syracuse and Rochester. So depending on what's filming in those regions, it may not be as easy to get all union crew. I'm just being honest.
Yep, fantastic. Back to locations. You said you had a pretty extensive location library. Do you list residential homes in your locations directory?
We don't in our directory, and I consider it kind of a liability issue, only because if a production comes in and we recommend this house to, then and something happens, we're not covered under the production's liability insurance, and they are. So that could leave us liable for any kind of repairs that need to be made. So we do have very close relationships with local location professionals, and they have lots and lots of private residences, from the big mansions to the, smaller ranch homes, to some of the McMansions that are around, and new home builds, as well as some of the older homes.
Okay, great. Nora, you went through sort of broad strokes of the permitting process. Can permits be expedited, or how quickly can permits be expedited for both public and private properties in Rochester?
Sure, that's a good question. So for public property, it really depends on where you're filming. If you're filming in Rochester, if you're filming in Monroe County or in a Monroe County park, we work with those offices religiously. We work with them often. And so they really know the importance of a quick turnaround. And if there needs to be a quick turnaround, for instance, we had 90 Day Fiance here, and they were always changing, locations on us, and we were getting them cleared pretty easily. If it is something that's significant, you need a little more time. And I think that anybody that's done locations understands that. I would say if you have a week, that would be great. If you only have a few days, you definitely want us to go with you in Monroe County and the city. When you get farther out of the city to the towns and the villages, many of them don't even have a permit process in place. They don't even have a special use permit or anything. So bringing our film office with you, we know them, we have relationships with them. You just kind of explain what you're doing, and here's our insurance certificate, here's what we need your help with. Any location manager knows how to shut down a major highway. With DOT, we don't, they don't need us for that. But as far as other towns and stuff for public and private, well, for private property, the only information that you need is that it's whatever the ordinance is, the local ordinance is for noise and light. If it's all quiet after 11 o'clock, then you have to go to the village or town and get a variance for that. And we'll go with you.
Oh, that's great. And in Rochester itself, are there any restrictions on night filming?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, maybe some of the neighborhoods would complain, but there is no law, there is no ordinance on night filming.
Okay, great. We have a time for a couple of more. We have a Spider-Man fan here. Spider-Man, that opening sequence was really impressive, and I would have to agree, that was incredibly impressive, what you guys pulled off in Rochester. The question is, do you think that the city of Rochester would be able to accommodate that kind of request again, for multiple days of filming in downtown with major stunts, speed, crew, so forth? Sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot for Rochester there, but that really was quite incredible.
It's okay. And actually, I'm trying to remember who was mayor when we did that. But every mayor that's been elected since then has said, when are we going to see another Spider-Man? So, they were fine with hyperdrive because that was still in the city, but it was on the outskirts of the city. But they really would like to see another production like that. And it really went very seamlessly. And I want to give a shout out because, John Hutchinson came up here and did a in-person scout with us years ago. I'll say 2012. And while we were at the city permit office, he said, so Margaret, if I want to, do a car chase with guns and everything, how could I do that? And Margaret said, well, with enough notice, we can do anything. And it was just a few months later that Nils came into town and said, hey, So we want to shut down Main Street for 10 days and drive 55 miles an hour. And so we went back to the city and said, hey, remember when Hutch was here? Well, we're going to do that now. So they really are eager to get another film like that. And they have no problem shutting streets down because of the workflow. You have to let them know far in advance. You have to post your detours, far enough in advance. You work with the police department for, how much law enforcement you need, and we can shut down any street you want.
Okay, great. Nora, we've got time for one more, and this is another location question. You mentioned the tunnels and the subway, the old subway there. Can you kind of describe that a little bit more? The question is, have productions successfully shot down there or safely shot down there? You did say it was film friendly and people have, but are there old tracks in there? Are there old cars that can be used? Can you just give a little bit more description on what's down there?
Sure. Okay. So it really truly is just an open abandoned space. The tracks are gone, but the tunnels are still there. The film that shot down there, and they did their entire film. And what they did is they recreated the Freedom Tunnels in New York City. And they even had a graffiti artist from New York come up, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name, but he did all the graffiti out there so it would look like the Freedom Tunnels. And almost their whole film was shot there. It's just a wide open cavernous space. If somebody wants to get a hold of us, we have the schematics that show exactly where the length is from between pillars and from beginning until you get to the aqueduct, which is at the other end. The aqueduct is not as accessible and it's not as film friendly. Eventually that will be filled in. And that's the aqueduct that used to carry the canal over the Genesee River. Yes. And so, it is very film friendly. Some of the utilities run through there. So it's working with them to make sure that they can still get access. If say cable for this one neighborhood goes out, they've got to be able to drive down there. But there's also in the schematics, there's a drawing and a placement for where you can put jennies up on street level and drop feeder cable down through. So we have all that already. If anybody's interested in shooting in the subway, we'd be happy to share that.
That's great, Nora. Yeah, I know just from being the location manager here at the office and in my past, those subway tunnels are always really, really fun to kind of get into and take a look around.
The film that's shot down there is called Topside, and it premiered at South by Southwest just a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Awesome. Well, listen, this wraps up our time with you, Nora. We really appreciate your time today. Rochester and the Finger Lakes is a terrific place to shoot. So many beautiful locations, so many diverse locations, lots of production resources, as you've outlined, and infrastructure there to help. Obviously, Nora is there every step of the way with you. Folks, we just want to thank you so much for your time, Nora and Tim, today up in Rochester. And thank you to all the attendees for taking the time to take the tour with us. See you at the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.